The Collected Regrets of Clover is about a 30-something death doula in New York who's dedicated her life to helping usher people peacefully through the dying process. And she realizes that she spent so much time doing that she hasn't actually lived a life of her own. And she regrets that. She realizes she's a bit of a loner. She doesn't have any friends. She's never had a romance. And so she starts to reconsider what her own legacy would be and what her own regrets might be. And this is the story of that journey. I think a lot of people wonder if Clover is me, and now they're quite surprised when they meet me, and I'm not a very shy introvert who's a little bit socially awkward. But I think there's parts of me in all of the characters, and there's little bits of me in Clover. I like chicken pot pie, and she does. I don't spy on my neighbours. I do like romantic comedies, but I don't watch them compulsively like her. But I think one of the great freedoms of writing a book is that you can put a little bit of yourself in all of the characters, but also have the freedom to create someone entirely different. And I like the fact that people might think I'm Clover because it makes it a little bit mysterious when they meet me, and I think it creates a little bit of intrigue, so that's not a bad thing. So a lot of the book focuses on the regrets that people express when they're dying, and Clover collects those in notebooks. But an interesting thing about regret is that I think a lot of people think it's a bad thing and that you really shouldn't have regrets, and I don't think that's necessarily true, because I think it's a chance to learn and grow. And really, if we didn't have regrets, then life wouldn't be very interesting, because there'd be no room for growth or improvement. So I think one of the key things about the book that I wanted to illustrate was that yes, you can have regrets, but you can also learn from them, and it's not too late if you reflect back on them, and they can still exist and maybe inspire you to do things that you haven't yet done with the time that you have left. Well, actually, the piece of advice that Claudia, one of the characters in the book, gives Clover is to be cautiously reckless. And I actually was given that piece of advice years ago by Jane Birkin when I interviewed her for a magazine, and I asked her if she had one piece of wisdom to give to the world, what would it be? And she said to be cautiously reckless, and I loved that. And ever since then, that's really guided me as kind of finding that balance between taking risks but calculated risks. And I think that's such a great philosophy for life, and really had to include that. And I think that's the advice that Clover needed as well. Yeah, the confessions aspect was quite fun to write. I read up a lot about the types of confessions people have on their deathbed, and it's actually not always a huge thing like a crime or a secret child, though sometimes it is. Sometimes it's really small things that people carry with them that they just feel guilty about. They might have stolen a small thing from the corner store when they were a kid, or, done something terrible to their sibling. And I thought that was really interesting and important to illustrate that, it's often the smallest things we think about at the end of our lives that we've carried with us, and by confessing, that gives people a release just before they die. But sometimes there are quite sensational things as well, and I think that was a fun aspect to include in the book as well. It's quite interesting being Tasmanian in New York. I think coming from a small island where a lot of people know each other, or you're related to a lot of people, I think there's that very friendly atmosphere. And so I carry that with me. I always say good morning to people on the street. I always, have a chat with people. And for New Yorkers who are often quite busy and on their way and don't always say hello, that's a little bit strange. And some people even I can't believe you do that. But I find the response is always positive, and people are surprised that I say good morning, but when I smile at them, but then they usually do actually like the fact that I've engaged with them. So I think bringing that Tasmanianness to the big city isn't necessarily a bad thing.